Today we continue on with our NHL GM Report Card series. We're now done with the Atlantic Division. Today we jump over to the Metro. We're going to start with Tom Fitzgerald and the New Jersey Devils. They were very active, made lots of changes. We'll discuss that in Greatest Work coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we're back doing the GM Report Card series. Now we're jumping divisions. We completed all the teams in the Atlantic. Last posted yesterday with the Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. Today we move on to the Metropolitan. We're going to finish out the Eastern Conference, and we're starting with the very, very active New Jersey Devils. So we're going to go through all the trades they've made, look at the players they re-signed, any players they brought in as UFAs, discuss how their lineup looks, and grade the work of GM Tom Fitzgerald. So obviously, like I said, a very, very active team this offseason. They got started even well ahead of the draft, making a big trade June 19th. They picked up goalie Jacob Markstrom, who they've been linked to for an extended period of time, of course, from the Calgary Flames, where they gave up Kevin Ball in a first-round pick in next year's NHL draft. So New Jersey, I think, got a pretty good deal here. Plus, Calgary retained some salary on Markstrom as well, so they don't even have him at the full cap hit. I know Markstrom, some people are kind of critical of this move because Markstrom's a little bit older, but if you look at his body of work, generally speaking, throughout his time in Vancouver and Calgary, he's had some really good seasons, and when his numbers have dipped, so the team in front of him. Obviously, a goalie and the defense kind of do somewhat work simultaneously here. If the decor in front of him is not good, he's going to face more grade A chances, which means he's probably going to give up more goals, and it's just kind of a spin-off effect. However, a goalie can cover up a forward or defense gap. I mean, it happens, right? Where you'll see a defensive mistake, whether it be the forwards coming back, the centerman, the D. It doesn't matter. They make a big save, all is forgotten, right? So, I mean, the goalie can be that difference maker, and a lot of times Markstrom has been that way. In the last year or so, I think in Calgary's been tough too, knowing that all the changes were coming, and after the Johnny Gaudreau, Matthew Tkachuk exits, it just kind of, I think everybody was kind of optimistic going into that season. Of course, they brought in Huberdeau and Kadri and Uyghur, and it was downhill. So I'm not going to give Markstrom too hard a time for his stats maybe not being as good the last year or so in Calgary, but generally speaking, the body work is there. I like the trade for New Jersey. Of course, he'll come in and be a tandem with Jake Allen, so they both have a lot of experience, similar age, and clearly should give them a much better duo than what they had last year, because goaltending was a major part of their issues. Of course, it wasn't just the goaltending, the decor, and of course the decor was responsible for some of it, and injuries up front played a role in it too. Besides that, on the 29th of June, they traded defenseman John Marino to Utah. Utah, of course, was on a good tear, picking up some good experienced D men. Of course, we knew that with Marino. We had talked about him being on the rumor mill about a week or two before that trade happened, that the Devils were looking to make some upgrades in free agency, and that Marino was probably going to be a guy they're looking to move. So they picked up a 2024 fifth rounder, a second rounder in 2024, and a second rounder in 2025. Actually, no. So Marino was traded to Utah with a fifth rounder in 2024, and they get 2 second rounders coming back. So again, I knew why this was a cost-cutting move to create the space to sign Brett Pesce, and they get a couple of second rounders back. All in all, I have no problem with this trade either. On the 29th, they made a trade that was a little bit more confusing. They gave Alexander Holtz and Akira Schmid to the Vegas Golden Knights for Paul Cotter and a third-round pick. Clearly, they have more faith and see Paul Cotter as being more impactful than a lot of people did. A lot of people were confused over this. I was in the beginning as well. Holtz and Schmid were still quite young, and it could still prove to be good players. I'm a little bit surprised that they gave both in the same trade for the return they got. I understand they like Paul Cotter, and they've made comments saying that people are going to be impressed and say that he's more than what they think he is, and that's all good. I don't think there's anything saying that Paul Cotter's a bad player, but he's probably going to be a fourth liner for them, right? So you're giving him, Schmid still had his moments as being a really good goalie. He's young. A couple of years from now, they might regret that. Who knows? And Holtz was drafted, as being a pretty good goal scorer. He hasn't really lived up to that, but I don't know. It just seems to be a risky move on my part, giving away two of their younger assets. for a small return, in my opinion. So not overly as fond of that trade, but I do understand it. On the 30th, they picked up Jonathan Kovacevic from the Montreal Canadiens. They of course, have way too many D, and they gave up a 4th rounder in 2026. So again, not a big trade there. Kovacevic will be a good depth piece. He proved his worth in Montreal that he can play in this league. So I don't mind that trade at all. Of course, amongst that, early in the offseason, they hired Sheldon Keefe to be the new head coach. Not really sure if they really had a legit shot at Craig Berube. Berube was linked to this job as well, and a few others. I know Jay Woodcroft was in there, Evison, a few other coaches too. They had Travis Green as the who took over at the end of last year. He was in the mix too, but before they made a decision, he took the head coaching job in Ottawa. Of course, Sheldon Keefe comes in from Toronto. So, Keefe is obviously a pretty good coach, had a good run there, but obviously it was time for a change of scenery for him. I think he'll be a fine coach there with the Devils. He's getting himself a really good team. Just like when he got to Toronto, he walked into Toronto with a really good team too. So I think he'll do well there. So that's all we have for trades, and for the most part, I'm going to give Fitzgerald good marks for trades, except for the Holtz-Schmid one. I'm still a little, the value just wasn't there for those players clearly. But I might have considered hanging on to them a bit longer just to see if their value could go up or they could become better pieces of the puzzle in New Jersey. Either way, we'll see what happens. Signing-wise, internally, they got the contract done for Seamus Casey. So his 3-year ELC is on the books. So he's another interesting young defenseman. He's going to be looking for playing time this year. They signed Curtis McDermott to a 3-year deal at 1.15. Again, McDermott came over from the Avs, played a good role. All the Metro teams seem to be bulking up on guys that could fight and be big and intimidating. So he fits that bill. 1.15 is mostly a contract that can go to the minors and be buried if it doesn't work out. You don't normally give those kind of players term, but I understand where they're coming from in that sense. So because of the amount, I would let it go, I guess. But, questionable to give a player of that magnitude a 3-year term, but I understand what they're doing here. Nick DeSimone signs a 1-year league minimum. Colton White, same idea. Nico Dawes gets a 2-year contract at $800. And I think it was 812.5 thousand, I believe it is. So Nico Dawes, he's going to be still. I think the hope is for Dawes to be the goalie of the future, and he'll have time now to work on his game and continue development with less pressure. While Markstrom and Allen hold down the fort here for the next year, and then in the second year of that contract, Dawes will hopefully be able to go up and be, because I believe the second year was a one-way contract for him. He should hopefully be able to take Allen's spot because his contract will be up. So Dawes, there's still hope for him to be the goalie of the future. Externally, they brought in some interesting UFAs, starting with Brett Pesce, the most prominent one, 6-year contract at $5.5 million. I have no problem there. That's a great signing. Pesce's a great defensive defenseman, right shot. It's a bit of a homecoming for him, so obviously he was interested in staying in Carolina, but I don't really think other teams outside of New Jersey really had a shot at him. Besides the Canes, they also bring in Brendan Dillon. Brendan Dillon gets a 3-year contract at $4 million. Not so much in love with that contract. I understand Dillon will give you some size and some physicality, but $4 million is an overpayment. Based on, I rely on a lot on AFP analytics to because they have a contract predictor they put out every year, and they're usually pretty bang on for most. He's overpaid by about $1 million or more. And for somebody who's probably going to play on your third pair, that's too much money. I don't like that contract for Brendan Dillon. I don't mind the defenseman. I think he's a good person to bring in. I just think it's too much money. Thomas Tatar signs 1 year, $1.8 million. That is a slight overpayment too. Tatar didn't have the greatest year last year. Good defensively though. Typically good responsible player with a bit of offensive upside. 1.5, 1.6 would have been a little bit better. It's not nearly as much of an overpayment as Dillon, but it is just that, a bit of an overpayment. Stefan Nason comes over from Carolina as well. 3-year contract at $275. That is a really good contract. Nason's going to give you a prototypical third-line play. He's able to pitch in with some offense. probably 30, 40 points. He's going to give you some good checking, good forechecking, decently responsible. Like, there's lots to like about Nason's game at this stage of his career. And he's, gave Carolina a lot of good minutes the last number of years. Giving him 3 years at under $3 million for a third-line player, I think that's a great signing, to be honest. So Pesce, Nason, I think are great deals. Dillon is definitely an overpayment. Not loving that. I understand. I have no problem with the player. I think bringing in another veteran to play on the left side was good, but it's too much term and too much money, in my opinion. And Tatar, I like Tatar. Maybe, and maybe the reason they overpaid is because in his last tenure there, he did do better than when he was elsewhere. Maybe they just feel like he'll be a better fit and be able to justify that money more, and I hope that's the case for them. So kind of summarizing the addition, subtraction, who's in, who's out. Coming into the Devils this year, we've got Jacob Markstrom, Paul Cotter, Stefan Nason, Tomas Tatar, Brett Pesce, Brendan Dillon, and Jonathan Kovacevic. So we got 3 new defensemen and 3 new forwards, and then, of course, a new goalie. Going out, we've got Alexander Holtz, Thomas Nosek, Kevin Ball, John Marino, Brendan Smith, Capo Kakinen, and Akira Schmid. So, again, you've got basically 3 defensemen going out between Ball, Marino, Smith. You got Pesce, Dillon, Kovacevic coming in. That their blue line there's definitely better. There's no doubt. Brett Pesce is going to be a tremendous pickup there to have him and Hamilton on the right side. They're in really, really good position that way. Their top 6 defensemen are going to be likely Hamilton with Siegenthaler. Pesce's probably going to play with Luke Hughes. And then you've got on the third pair, you got Brendan Dillon and Nemec probably and then you get Seamus Casey and Jonathan Kovacevic, and there's your depth pieces trying to get some playing time. I mean, Casey could very well spend some time in the minors, perhaps. We'll see what they decide to do for his development. And then, of course, up front, like I said, you're going to have a very similar top 6 as before. They do need to get Dawson Mercer signed. He's one of the big pieces of business that's outstanding still. Mercer would normally play in the top 6, probably with Hughes and Meyer. Hischier, Bratt, Palat. I mean, I'm not sure Palat's a top 6 forward at this stage of his career, but based on what they have, I think he is the obvious choice to put there. Then you're probably going to have a third line of Nason, Tatar, and Howla. Cotter, Lazar, Bastion, likely going to be your 4th line. So to me, the bottom 6 is definitely better. Your defense is definitely better. Your goaltending is definitely better. They could use another top 6 forward, and they do need to get Dawson Mercer signed. But I think there's enough there that they should be a really good chance to. I think they can rival for the division lead, being the top 3. And at the deadline, their main thing will be to want to add probably another top 6. But they do need to get Mercer looked after, and I'm not sure what the holdup is there. So for me, I'm going to give Tom Fitzgerald a grade of a B. I was going to go, to be honest, if he had Mercer signed to a good contract, he might rival to get a B plus or an A. But in all honesty, like a couple of overpayments there, the Dillon contract specifically is really my only real mark against them. I like most of the other moves, like the Holt-Schmid trade, and but at the same time, I do understand that their value was low and they haven't really lived up to expectations. So makes sense. I mean, Schmid couldn't even get the contract he got with Vegas tells what his value is, and it's just pretty low right now. So he's going to rebuild his confidence and kind of rebuild his game. But at the same time, like I said, a lot of the Devils aspects are going to be better next year. Better D, better goaltending, similar top 6 forwards, but the bottom 6 is better. So I expect a lot better result from the New Jersey Devils this year, and they hired a good coach as well. So let me know your thoughts on the Devils' offseason moves in the comments, and let me know how you would grade the work of Tom Fitzgerald, and we'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you next time.